nothing at all, what would you do not to see your tears fall, sleeping so still, with a little time to kill? Drink down this thought, swallow this pill.
Welcome in, boys and girls. It is a Thursday, September 27th, 2012 edition of Chris's Corner. Welcome into the corner, everybody. I'm so amplified and excited that it's almost Friday and it's almost the weekend, and I'm sure you are as well. I am your host, Chris Sylvester. On Twitter, you can follow me at MLB Insider Chris. Send me your follow request. I will accept it. That would be much appreciated. And, you know, if you got a good knowledge of sports, I'd love to talk some sports with you on there as well. Lots going on around the sports world today. I wasn't on the air. I haven't been on the air since my UTEP Wisconsin post-game show on Saturday. So obviously, I have not yet been able to chime in on the ridiculous play that happened Monday night between the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks, which led to some news today that we'll get to in a second. But let's go back and see what happened on Monday night between the Seahawks and the Packers.
Bryce is 6'4", Moore is 6'6". They're all to the right. Takes the lone receiver to the left. The Packers playing at the goal line as Wilson scrambles to keep it alive. The game's final play is a Wilson lob to the end zone, which is fought for by Tate with Jennings simultaneous. Who has it? Who they give it to? Touchdown! One guy goes up, touchdown. The other said no time. Has to be looked at because it's a score. Still have an official down there in the pile looking. There's Russell Wilson. Favorite play. He's under review. You can't go to replay to determine who called the ball. So that call has to be made on the field. You see the one guy go up touchdown and the other go out like it's a pick.
How does M.D. Jennings not get credit for the interception? I have no idea.
This is deciding who wins the game on this call.
Under review. The call on the field stands. Touchdown.
Seahawks win in the most bizarre finish you'll ever see.
There it is. Mike Tirico on the call, courtesy to ESPN for the audio. Wow, was my initial reaction, and I'm still in a bit of shock that call went that way. Obviously, a lot of people putting that blame on the replacement referees, and had the real referees have been around for Monday's game, we might have not had this whole debacle, and the Packers would have snuck out of there with a 12-7 victory. But instead, it goes the home team's way, and the Seattle Seahawks, on what looked to be and should have been called an interception, win the game. Golden Tate, I mean, you can't blame him. He's trying to win the game for his team no matter what. So he did push off. We got that. Not called. And then Jennings clearly had possession of the football, brought it to his chest. Tate, when Jennings fell to the ground, ripped the ball out of Jennings' hands, and the poor replacement officials, one signaled touchdown and the other signaled interception, game over. The touchdown referee ended up ruling over the referee that called the game over interception, which it should have been. They went and reviewed it, still didn't get it right, and the play stood. As a Packer fan, you have the right to be furious. As a member of the Green Bay Packers organization, you have the right to be furious. But it's over. The replacement referee era in the National Football League is over. That's right. just yesterday, the NFL, led by Roger Goodell, agreed on a new contract with the locked out officials, and the replacement officials are no more. They will start right away tonight between Baltimore and Cleveland. So finally, we get to see the real officials back, and we will see a difference, a big difference. And that's just flat out good for the sport. Today, Roger Goodell met with the media and apologized to fans about the referee lockout and the dilemma that a lot of teams had to put up with these replacement officials who are now gone.
I think there was a real pressure, I think, for everyone to get the officials back on the field this weekend. I think everybody wanted, the officials wanted to get back on. And I believe we would have reached agreement this week, regardless of Monday night or Sunday night or the past weekend.
As a fan of football, just watching on Monday night, the end of that game, what was your reaction?
You never want to see a game end like that. And you never want to see a game end on a controversial play. In 32 years as a league employee, that's something you always would like to see avoided. But it happens in sports. Sports are imperfect, officiating is imperfect, life's imperfect. And that's why I think we all love sports.
That was Roger Goodell. Once again, thank you to the ESPN and the Associated Press, who was getting the film on Goodell, apologizing to fans and the teams and organizations all around the NFL for the hold-up with the real referees. They are finally back, and they will be officiating tonight. That Cleveland-Baltimore game should be kicking off pretty soon, and in fact, it has kicked off halfway through the first quarter already. Time does fly. As you can tell, we're already at the end of September. It feels like we were just talking about the trade deadline and summer baseball a few days ago. But this game is nothing. Cleveland and Baltimore with about 5 minutes to go in the first quarter. So nothing. Sounds so far like the real referees are doing their job in their first game back out of the lockout. It's just good overall for the National Football League. You heard Goodell apologizing for Monday night and, questionable play calling throughout the first 3 weeks of the season. Any more questionable play calling, well, that's going to fall on the real referees, and then we're all not going to have an excuse. But the replacement refs are gone, and it's almost a situation where don't let the door hit you on the way out. You don't want to be critical on these guys because they're not NFL referees. They were called upon to officiate National Football League games because of the lockout from the real referees not being able to reach an agreement with the NFL. The NFL contacted these other officials from Division III, NAIA, pulled some of these guys off the street, possibly, but, they are gone, and the NFL was finally able to reach an agreement with these real referees, and here it is on NFL Network right now, Thursday Night Football. They are back, so it's just a good day for the NFL, and hopefully we won't have too many more controversial calls this season. You didn't want it to get to a point where it ended up costing a team a game, and that's what I talked about on Sunday on Sam's Situation with Sam Rosen. He has a weekly show on Sunday nights. You can go back and listen to it on our page, National Sports, right here on Spreaker.com. But I was saying that, as soon as possible would be ideal for the NFL and the real officials, referees, to come to an agreement, because believe it or not, it's going to end up costing a team a ball game here soon, and we don't want it to get to that point. Unfortunately, the very next night, 24 hours later, it happened. The Green Bay Packers fall to 1-2. Seattle improves to 2-1. And although the real referees are back, it's not over, because obviously it's still being talked about. It's going to be talked about in 50 years from now. And it's going to be talked about in 100 years from now if the Green Bay Packers miss out on the playoffs by a game, or the Seattle Seahawks are into the playoffs because of one game, costing a team in the NFC West behind them to not get in. So certainly a lot of scenarios that this game could very well affect the teams in the end, but right now it's only week 4 and still a lot of time for the Packers and the Seahawks to figure out what they're going to do with their seasons. Obviously, Green Bay, once again, coming into the season a viable Super Bowl contender, coming off a season where they only lost 2 games last year, but one of those games came into the playoffs against the eventual champion New York Giants. And the Seahawks, of course, a couple years ago, went into the playoffs with a 7-9 record and ended up knocking off the, at the time, defending Super Bowl champion New Orleans Saints. So you never know. The NFL had a pretty crazy weekend. We had that Sunday night game, and where the field goal just snuck in, and the Ravens were able to beat the Patriots 32-31. Bill Belichick was seen grabbing a referee, wanting his attention to know if they were going to review that play. They didn't, but it looked pretty good on the replay that was a made field goal. Belichick was fined $50,000, but for him that's like us pulling $5 out of our pocket. That's pretty much my way of putting it. That's what my buddy told me today. It's pretty real. That's a pretty real, it's a pretty real saying, because of course you have coaches in the NFL and the players in the NFL that make so much money and get these fines that really doesn't have so much of an impact on their budget. So moving away from the NFL onto the college football field, we have one game in action right now between number 8 Stanford visiting Washington. And yes, this does tie into what we were just talking about, because this game is taking place on the same field where the crazy Hail Mary game-winning interception from Russell Wilson happened as well. I say interception because it was an interception, but it was called a touchdown. I hope you can come to realize my sarcasm there. But that is the game going on right now. Just kicked off about 5 minutes ago. Stanford and Washington, of course. Stanford coming off a bye week, did upset USC 2 weeks ago. Washington 2-1 after getting pummeled by LSU at LSU 41-3 in week 2. So certainly Washington is hoping to kick off the Pac-12 play with an upset over Stanford. That game, like I said, just kicked off. 12:40 to go in the ball game right now between the Cardinal and the Huskies. No ranked teams will be playing tomorrow night, and on Saturday it is the great game of college football. Right now I'm going to be going over the top 25 teams and what my expectations are for them this weekend, and my predictions of the games that they will be playing in this weekend. So let's start off with Ole Miss at Alabama. Ole Miss 3-1, coming off a game where they allowed over 60 points to Texas at home. Ole Miss has already surpassed their win total from last season. They are 3-1, visiting Alabama. I don't think this will be that close. Ole Miss really has a shady defense. Bo Wallace has done a pretty good job of running the option at quarterback. Also has a very strong arm as well. A big guy, can move around in the pocket, can get downfield with his legs and